So we've got a question from a viewer in Fergus Falls who wants to, excuse me, not Fergus Falls, I'm sorry, from Douglas County, who wants to know about the Real ID bill. And this viewer is actually concerned about what information the federal government would get from Real ID. I don't know that we're in a position to deal too much with what the federal government requires, but we do have this question about compliance with the federal government. I'm going to look at you, Senator, simply because you're on the Transportation Committee. Any thoughts on the Real ID bill?
And so is Senator Rest.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on her next, but I'm going to start with you.
We did pass it off the Senate floor today. I didn't vote for it. I still have got very serious concerns about what information and how much information is getting back to the federal government. My understanding is that some
you and the viewer are on the same page.
Some of my concerns have been reduced, but not to the point where I'm still comfortable with it. I'm looking forward to seeing how they match up with the House and getting a better bill. And also, the fact is, we don't necessarily have to trigger this in this session. We can actually take this up next year. And maybe that might be a better way to do this, is to have, and we did meet during the summer with the House and the Senate in joint in a transportation subcommittee or a working group that worked on this. But the first step we did take was to let the administration or let the department and the agency start working on figuring out what we can do and what we can't. And I think we're going to have to have a dual track system, which is one is non Real ID and one is fully compliant.
And that's what we just passed in the House out of Ways and Means.
And that's what we did in the Senate.
So one is a regular, just like the driver's license everyone has now.
Correct.
That doesn't change. But they'd have the opportunity to get the Real ID if they chose that form.
Enhanced.
Correct.
Right, but we're still concerned. I'm still concerned about.
It's still the Real ID.
Different.
Enhanced is another form.
Right. There's different levels of this. So you have to have we currently have an enhanced ID.
Right. I got to quit helping here. I'm creating confusion. Go ahead, Senator.
But we have to get a fully compliant Real ID. But for myself, I'm actually never going to get a Real ID because I already have a federal CAC card, which gets me onto military bases. I also have a passport. And in those cases, I don't necessarily need to have it. So we need to provide an opportunity for people who don't want it and don't want the government involved in it to keep what they have, and also secure to make sure that's secure enough so that we're not passing that information to the federal government. So I'll.
Real ID.
We did pass it off the floor today, and of course in 2009 is when we had passed the prohibition for discussing it, and I think there was a lot of uncertainty and suspicion of the federal government for what they would do with that information. But now the federal government and Homeland Security has said enough is enough, and if Minnesotans want to use their driver's license to take domestic flights and if they want to go on federal installations, now not like going in the Smithsonian, but if they want to go on a military base to see their child graduate from boot camp or get some sort of commission, they will need some identification that is Real ID compliant. And those of us that have passports, I use my passport on every flight, whether it's domestic or international. I've just gotten used to doing that. I also have a passport card, which is equivalent to something called the enhanced driver's license, which allows Minnesotans to travel by car, train, or boat to the countries that touch ours. Which is Canada and Mexico and some of the Caribbean islands. But you can't.
So, but this bill
and that one is already Real ID compliant. But the bill that we passed today is I think it's different from what the House is doing because it's a stepped procedure to finally get to every license being able to be Real ID compliant rather than insisting that it all be done at once, which would be far more expensive. So the Senate bill is going to be gradually doing it and waiting in particularly until we have the information infrastructure, the computer new software that is coming in the next year or so. And
right.
I think that's quite frankly, it's more fiscally responsible. It's a little bit slower, But I think I think eventually that's what we're going to do in order to save money.
So this House's proposal that we saw in Ways and Means, they actually amended it it'll spend, I think, over almost $7 million in order to implement it. It is a dual track system, so folks can choose to go with Real ID or keep their current driver's license process. The challenge is we had to have passed it, I think, by the 10th or the 15th, which we didn't do to meet the vendor's timeline. And so, so the House did not pass it by the deadline anyways. So I think there's still a lot of debate that will happen. I think we'll probably see the Real ID on the floor within the next, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days. And I think many folks will offer amendments to change it.
I think there's still some very serious questions that the federal government needs to deal with on this too, as far as the security of the data, how they're going to use it. And I think this law that they passed for Real ID was passed in the dead of night, tucked into an appropriations bill. It's worse than anything I think the legislature has ever pulled off. But
maybe not.
Maybe not. But nonetheless, I think the federal government has some work yet to do.
I actually agree with you very much.
I've seen it side by side, and there's very little difference between these two licenses until you get down to the maybe bottom item or two. Otherwise, they're pretty much
And
identical.
implementing
The
it, and
information
a
is already there.
timetable and that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
That's right.
But people are very skeptical, and I understand why.